Good morning, my friends. Welcome to a new Saturday video. Today's video is a little bit different. You've been telling me, I've been listening. Okay? When I started this YouTube channel, my idea was basically a look over my shoulder. The way I work without much explanation, with a touch of comedy every now and then. Because I believe there are already too many people on YouTube explaining and showing techniques. However, I decided today I will let you have some of my secrets, which might not be secrets. Maybe I believe they're secrets. I'm sure lots of people use the same techniques, use similar techniques. Maybe some of the techniques I invented, some of the materials I have used, nobody else used before. I don't know. But anyway, so stick with me if you would like to see, as a mixed media artist, what I'm using. Okay? As you know, mixed media means everything what comes your way. Yes, so I'm working with all different types of paints. I use acrylic paints, I use what they call house paints or latex paints, and I use fabric paints, everything. I even mix oil paints and acrylic paints together. Hold the horses, you're gonna say. You can't do that. That's right, they will fight each other. And the drying times are in between. You have to be careful. You have to play with that, because you cannot put acrylics on top of oils, because they will peel off, and because the oils will just take too long to dry. But I have done it all, believe me. And the main thing is, show no fear. Get yourself a cheap canvas, something you don't feel sorry that you messed up an expensive 40 by 40 inch canvas. A small 12 by 12, get them in the dollar store and be creative. Okay, so here are some of the materials I use and some tips and some of the tools I use to create effects. Okay, like I said, acrylic paints. As you noticed, I used anything from quality, expensive paints, from Liquitex to Golden, all the way to dollar store brands. Everything goes. The dollar store brands, of course, the pigments and the colors, they're not that great. You have to apply several layers. And but you know what? In mixed media, everything goes, as long as the final result is what you're looking for. Okay? Now here's a tip. If you go to your building merchant, I'm talking about Home Depot right now, in the paint selection, in the paint department, there's often a little table with what they call the Oops paint. There are little paints in little jars like this, and as you can see, that's $1. They're pre-mixed colors, like this is really light pink. I have countless. From dark brown. So whenever I'm in the Home Depot, I look for that table, and often they have one or two of those colors. For $1, you can't go wrong, because latex, and they're most of the times good brands. They have an excellent coverage, and I like to work with them. And I also have the big gallons, the 3.7 liter or the 1 gallon containers, with all kinds of paints. I always have a can of what you call it, primer, white primer, but anything goes. You can use spray paints, which I like to stay away from it, because you need to do it outdoors. And okay, so besides using the acrylics and the latex paints, I use fabric paints, which I sometimes get in little containers like this. You get them in the craft stores, and even after they empty. So here's another one, for example. I have countless one. I usually remix similar colors or different colors, and I put them in there simply because the small tip makes it excellent to do writing or fine lines, something you can achieve with a paintbrush. But if you want to get a little bit texture in it, you use those ones, okay? So don't throw the empty ones away, refill them. And okay, so those are, now we're talking paints. Now, to create effects, there's many ways to create effects, okay? You can use in the background, you can things like fake money, okay? I even have Chinese money. You see, I ripped out a piece because I used it. What I usually do, if I use the whole bill, I crumple them up a little bit to make them look a little bit used. And I will partially cover them with different paints and let bits and pieces look through, so that people have the imagination that this might be a real $100 bill, because you can't really tell when it's covered, right? So this is one of the things. Then you use pages from books. I have an old book of something I already read. It's like a paperback. I just rip out a page and I put it in there. You can use newspaper clippings. So I don't have to go more in details because you've probably seen it, other people using it. Okay. So then, to create marks in your paintings, in between layers, you can use anything. For example, I have this potato masher. Okay, we didn't use it in the kitchen anymore because the paint of the handle started to peel off because there was too much water exposure. And but the actually stamper here gives nice imprints. Okay, so you can use that. You can use anything from cardboard tubes in different sizes. See, to stamp little rings in there. Okay, let me put those away. You can use what do you call that? You know, where you come with your, you can even use that in here. You can put them on there. You can you know, stencil it around it. Yeah, so you can use that. You can use this is a toy for my dog. Okay, I just roll it over the paint, or I dip it in paint. And as you noticed, I have the surface I work is actually a small sheet of drywall, which I have covered with parchment paper. So that is perfect to work right beside your canvas or your paper, and you mix your paints right on the parchment paper, and then which is perfect to roll this little ball in there and then go over the surface. It's perfect to where's the other thing? Look at this. For example, this little toy car. There's a pattern in the tires. You can run that through the paint and go over your surface, over your canvas, over your paint, with fresh paint on it, or imprint into the existing paint still wet on the surface. You can use things like the bubble wrap. Now I try to stay away from this because a lot of people using the bubble wrap, and I don't want to overdo it. I do a little bit, not all the time. And they also come in different sizes. There's the really, really fine one. I don't know if you can see that. And there's the larger ones. And then again, what I often do when they're so covered in paint, I end up peeling this off, and you get a beautiful pattern of different colors, whatever was on there. And that is easy to be attached onto a canvas. So try that. Talking about peeling off paint, let me just get that over here. I love this paint tray. That's a dollar store paint tray. And you know, I put my colors in there, I mix them in there sometimes. And when this gets thick enough, let me just show that to you. I think I've done that before. You take a knife and you can peel that off. And look at the back of the different colors you have. Now what I do with that is I shape it as long as it's soft. Now if you peel that off ahead of time and you store them, they get brittle. But if they're soft, you can shape them and then you can attach them to your canvas with a little bit of paint. Okay, so that's another option. Then what I sometimes do, and a lot of the items are items I found or they're from the dollar store. And you see this reef there? You see that? I dip it in paint and I just smash it onto the canvas. You get all different patterns and little designs using that. You can go ahead and save the plastic containers where your chicken comes in or whatever was in here. As you can see in the back, you see that pattern? Perfect. Perfect for imprinting. Yes. What else I'm using? If you have noticed, I had ordered this one online. This is the gold foil. I watched the video of someone using this, and even the foil I have already used multiple times. There's still, as you can see in it, there's still gold which can still be lifted off this plastic. So I never throw this away. As long as there's a little bit gold left over, because you don't want to overdo it. I've been experimenting a lot with this gold foil lately, and I have to start step away from it because I don't want to have gold in every single painting. But as long as there's a little bit left in that foil here, I can use it. And normally this gold foil is used by applying the special, let me see, where is it? Well, I have it here somewhere. The gold leaf adhesive, yes. But I also use it directly into the fresh paint. When the paint is still tacky, put it on top of it with the gold facing up and the silver facing down, and just walk away. Come back next day and then you will see it will adhere to the paint which dried in the meantime, and then you can peel it off and then you will see the gold. And this kind of gold is kind of nice because, like I mentioned before, depending on the angle you look at the canvas or the paper, you will see the gold or you won't. So that's always nice to see when you step in front of a painting and you step left and right, you look from different angles. Okay. Then I also have tools like this. Is actually for my grandfather. This is to recreate wood grain. Yes. But I use it in all kinds of different techniques and patterns. You have to play with it and see. This is a head lice comb. This is still from when my kids were in kindergarten, and once a year they came home with head lice because some kid was sent by their parents to school. And that's a really fine comb. You can use any kind of comb, right? You can use, I don't even remember what was packaged in here. That was a piece of packaging. That's foam. And I have used that too to make imprints. Okay. So also what I've been using is, this is a piece of cardboard. I use it for the purpose of stenciling. I have also left it on the surface and sprayed a little bit spray paint over, but that works as well. Then I have those wrappers. They have those little Italian biscuit cookies, right? But if you can see, they have this pattern. Perfect. Okay, so you can use that one. Then this one, I believe this came around a plant. some sort of flowers. And I looked at it as kind of a wavy pattern, so I keep this. This is also cardboard, which I just peeled off the outer layer, and you have this honeycomb pattern. Now this is almost towards the end because I used it so many times that this gets really thick now, but that makes nice marks. Okay, then I have things like, it was olive oil, I believe, 2 bottles of olive oil. See, you can make nice patterns there. Then you can use things like those rubber stamps. I stole them from my wife's supplies. This is what she uses, and she works in daycare. Okay. So what else we have? Then I have, for example, there's some sort of, I don't know, glasses. Furthermore, I have here my whole collection of stencils, which has anything from little plastic stencils to paper stencils, and actually some of the stencils I have been so heavily used. For example, this one has the alphabet on it, and this is starting to rip and fall apart because the paper, you can't really wash them. The plastic ones I try to wash if I can, and some of them, like this is a really fine alphabet. This is, I failed to wash it. But yeah, so stencils, they come in all shapes and sizes, and we can use them too. What else I use? I use, for example, this is silver golden plaque, and they come in different ones. This is actually a 3D paint liner, it calls, right? And they work very similar to what you can do with those ones, right? I bought them because I wanted to use the gold for something. Okay, then I have this neon colors. They're pastel pen. This is like a gel. Now with those ones you have to be careful because they also are like to pleat. And also what I don't use is the bingo markers. They're fading really quick, and they pleating right through anything. Like if you wanted to have pattern and you cover them up with other paints, they will always pleat through. So bingo markers I don't use anymore. Then I just bought those one dual tip sketch markers. They're alcohol based. They're okay. They're not the best. If I can, I prefer the acrylic markers. Where are they? They look like this, acrylic markers. So they have acrylic paint in them. And you can also, those ones, they're oil based. Yeah. And yes, so what else can you use? You can use, for example, once you're satisfied with what you got, you can put top coats on there. For example, I have this color shifting paint that's kind of a glaze. They also come in different colors, so this particular color you would use on something in the yellow range, and they have green ones, okay, perhaps blue ones. This is the only one I picked up. I have been experimenting with this one. Then I have this one. This is actually interesting. This is called Dragonfly Glaze, and it has a really fine pattern of what do you call it? I don't know what it's called. But it gives a nice effect. Now I wouldn't service like cover the entire surface, but you can tape off certain areas and put a coat of that stuff on, Dragonfly Glaze, and all available in your paint stores where you get your craft stores, your craft paints. Then I have this one. This is actually a gold glitter glue. I always bring that from Mexico because the one I find here in the stores, they're too coarse. This is really, really fine. This one is called Diamante. And I like that. And I use it really sparingly. And when I mentioned earlier the gold foil, also, of course, use gold leaf in my paintings. Okay, what else I have? Okay, now some people have seen me in the past doing effects, what I call marbonizing. Not marbleizing, marbonizing, which is spelled marbo and nice, because I claim I invented that technique. I'm not sure, I probably didn't, but that's what I've been doing. And I like to do sometimes when I get inspired by a painting and I realize that, oops, that's a little bit too close to what the other artist was doing. I like to distort it by applying what I call a marbonizing effect. So let's say you have a figurative painting, you can go ahead and put a coat of varnish. Now what I always go and buy is the polyurethane, and that's in your home building store as well. That's actually a water-based wood varnish, believe it or not. I find that it's a little bit cheaper than when you go with the fine arts varnish. I don't know. I have seen varnish in Walmart, I believe, but I haven't tried it. I don't know if that works really well. This works always well for me because of my mixed media service. And so marbonizing is basically when you finish your painting. Let's say you painted a dog and then you look at the inspiration, you go, man, it looks like I copied that one. Let's change that completely. You add a coat of varnish, you let it dry, and then what I do, I use something called linseed oil. I have two kinds, and to be honest, I don't know what's the difference. This one is boiled and the other one is raw linseed oil. It doesn't matter, they both work. And I use an old rag, I put some linseed oil right on the surface, and I move it around, and I make on some areas a little bit heavier than on others. And then I go ahead and I use matching colors to whatever you already have on the surface, and I use the little spray, not spray, the little squeeze bottles here. Some of them, like this is a Martha Stewart, then I have the folk art type, then I have even this is airbrush color. I use that one too, right? It's also acrylic based, I believe. Anyway, it's a water based paint, and I just go over the surface, and I use a palette knife, and I just go over the entire painting, and I cover up whatever you had just painted. Now I'm sure that some people who watch my video for the first time, they go, oh my god, what an idiot, he just ruined his entire painting. But it was done intentionally. Now you can use a hair dryer, you speed that up a little bit, and when the surface is dry to the touch, don't let it cure overnight, because then you won't get it all off. Dry to the touch, then you use different techniques, like for example, I use a water bottle, I spray some water on it, I use my little metal palette knives, they work best, and I start to scrape off, not the entire surface, only bits and pieces over here and there, you know. And I also have a little wire brush, which is somewhere in here, so you can use a little wire brush, you scrape it off, and you keep dabbing it with a rag and keep cleaning it with a water bottle. You keep spraying until you come to a point where you're satisfied with what you see. And what the linseed oil does is it doesn't make the paint adhere to the surface, at least not when you wait only till shortly after. If you wait till next day, it all becomes worn, and then basically it's ruined. Believe me, I've done it where I just walked away and I forgot about it. And yes, and on the finished surface, I again apply a coat of varnish to just seal it all in and to protect it. Give it a try, it's worth it. You can even call it Marbonizing it. Maybe one day it's in the Webster Dictionary. Marbonizing, the inventor, Marbo the artist. Anyway, so talking about texture. Now, if you wanted to do texture, best on canvases, not so much on paper, because paper you can use a certain type too, but how are you gonna frame it behind glass, right? So if you have a canvas and you would like to use texture, you can use modeling paste, which I have a few here, or you make your own modeling paste. And there's certain ways you can do that. You can use like a drywall compound. You cannot use it the way it is because that will crumple and will crack. It's too soft. You mix it 50-50 with Mod Podge. Okay, mix a little container 50-50 with this, apply it, do your texture, do your patterns, let it dry, and you can even put your paints directly into the mixture for your first surface cover, so it's not white. And once this get hard, you can again use sandpaper, and you can paint it and layer it and sand it in between. You get the point, right? Now, if you wanted to use a different product, I can also recommend acrylic tile adhesive, and that stuff gets hard as rock. Yeah. This is really nice. This is a tile adhesive on a water base, and it's an acrylic, so that doesn't fight your paints. You can use it straight out of the bucket. Make sure you always cover that nicely with a lid in between, because that stuff gets hard. And you can again mix your paints directly into the acrylic adhesive, mix it around with a palette knife, and do your patterns. Now this one, once it is hard and you have created surfaces, let's say with a headlights comb, or those edges are pretty sharp, so you be careful. You can actually cut your fingers. So just sometimes if the edges are too sharp, just before it dries completely, I take a palette knife and I go over the surface and I smooth them a little bit to a certain extent so they don't hurt you, right? Because that's all you want to do to get a lawsuit because someone cut his nose because he inspected the canvas too closely and he slipped and he's got a huge cut in his nose. Okay, so here's another trick. As a master pastry chef, what I have been doing in the past, I have been experimenting with spices. That's right. And dry sprinkling fresh cinnamon, cardamom, or any other spices into your fresh surface of the paint. People will walk up to this painting later on, they're gonna say, I don't know what it is, but I feel like I want to eat a cinnamon roll right now, right? Or, give it a try. There's many ways you can do that. You can sprinkle spices, you can sprinkle what I have done in the past, sand for texture. I have actually, let me see it, different bags of very coarse and very fine sawdust for my friend who has a wood shop, and he gives me those little bags every now and then, and I use them also in my paintings. So I think I covered everything pretty much, and again, possibilities are endless. It's always up to your imagination what you can create. And like I said again, show no fear, because if you screw up, let it try, put it away, and layer it again. Like one of my the greatest artists I admire a lot is Willem de Kooning. And when you think about some of his paintings, they took years and years and years, because he was never satisfied. He kept on scraping off the paints, and he kept layering and layering until he was at a point where he said, okay, that's it. Right? You can do the same thing. I mean, there's only so much you can do on a paper, but like I said on the beginning, get a cheap canvas, a 12 by 12, and just go on and on and on. And if you end up at a point where you say, oh my God, what have I done? Let it try and continue. And that's the thing about mixed media. It doesn't really matter how thick it is. I mean, at one point, if your canvas weighs 50 kilograms and it's falling off the wall and hurt someone's foot, yeah, then maybe you've gone overboard. You've gone too far. All right, so enough talking. So that's the end of the video, but the next video I will do a little painting on this little frame I got. It's only is it a 10 by 10, I believe, and the I'm gonna do something, so there will be the continuation of this video. Let me know what you think. Did I talk too much? Or do you want to see other videos like this? All right, take it easy, be nice to each other, and we see you soon. Bye-bye.